So I click over to Facebook. Hi, everybody. So I click over to Facebook being like, I'm going to pull up the questions because I know Christine had a few questions about spirit guides. I'm going to go pull that up, get prepared, finish sipping my coffee, chatting with my wife. And Heather's like, did you know you were scheduled for 1:30?
2 days in a row.
Okay.
Lisa,
we call this
time 2 days in a row.
We call this pandemic brain, where you think
no,
you know what you're doing.
Menopause brain.
It's menopause brain.
My God.
Thanks, Heather. We're totally fine. I'm sorry anybody was worried. I could have swore in my head it was 2:00, but then yesterday I could have swore in my head it was 3:00. You'd think I would have been smart enough to actually double check.
Yeah.
But no, there was no double checking happening. I was like, oh, look, everybody's here. And somebody commented about being here early, but that was obviously actually early. Hello, Christine. Hello, Angela. Hello, Laura. Butterfly Love Child Lucy. I will get my crap together and eventually start a live on time, I'm quite sure.
I will start scheduling them for you.
I'm going to have to start setting an alarm. Yeah, this is the thing, right? I'm definitely going to have to start setting an alarm. But yeah, I apologize for anybody who was worried. No, I'm just an airhead. That's basically what happened. So, hello. This is only slightly mortifying and embarrassing. How is everybody doing?
Well, at least you're being embarrassed by yourself today.
Yeah, Peggy's over there. Peggy's sitting over there being peanut gallery today. But at least I was in my seat. I was literally sitting here for the past 20 minutes waiting to start. Just waiting to start, getting everything set up, that kind of thing. Anyway, this live chat idea came about because Christine Bunny Kisses had requested, I think probably a couple of times if I remember right, having a conversation or a video about my experience with spirit guides. And yeah, so I wanted to do a little bit of a talk about sort of my experience, how I developed a relationship with my spirit guides, and maybe we can have a bit of a back and forth and ask questions and share with each other some of our experiences for those who are comfortable sharing their experiences, and we can just kind of talk about it, because I think it's kind of like with the tarot. A lot of times there's certain things that we just hear about all the time, and then nobody really talks about how that thing goes down, or how to make it happen, or how to connect or learn or whatnot. Oh, Kim's here with her teenager Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Chris, you got abducted by the spirit guides. I mean, quite likely. I cannot believe, though, 2 days in a row. Actually, I just can't believe I missed the time 2 days in a row. Anyway, yeah. So thank you for having faith and hanging out as long as you did. But I wanted to start by, I guess, defining what I think a spirit guide is in my experience. And everybody's experiences with spirit guides is going to be different. But for me, when I think of a spirit guide, I think of somebody who I visit in meditation or on the astral, which we'll talk about the astral also today. But somebody that an energy or an entity that I visit in meditation or during astral travel, which I'm going to put in air quotes for now. And for me, a spirit guide is somebody that I visit again and again. So I feel like you can have encounters on the astral or encounters in guided meditations or self-guided meditations where you encounter certain energies or certain entities. And I think those can be really valuable and powerful. But for me, a spirit guide is somebody who I look to again and again, somebody who I feel is very bonded to me and who I seek the advice of when I need that kind of support and advice. And I think with what we're going on what's going on in the world right now and where we're at, I think a lot of us are looking to our sort of spiritual support networks, or our friend networks or whatever it might be, to connect and to feel solid and supported and held. And for me, working with my spirit guides is one of the ways that I seek that kind of support. So yeah. So for me, I have 2 guides that I work with regularly, and they can be somewhat interchangeable. It kind of depends, and I'm always open to either one of them when I specifically set a goal to go to the astral, go into meditation, and work with my guides. I'm usually open to whoever. It's usually the one, and then occasionally the other. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about how it came about for me. I'm going to also I did want to actually pull up Facebook so that I could look at questions that I'd had about this. I first discovered my connection with spirit guide through guided meditation. So in my situation, what had happened was I think it was just a group meditation I'd gone to, and we were guided to go to a particular location and then wait for a guide to appear. And that was my first experience with spirit guides. And that guide, I couldn't even repeat to you much about that experience because I don't even really remember much about that guide because I didn't kind of build a relationship with that guide and I didn't go back to work with that guide again. And so I didn't have that experience to kind of stick in my memory, but I do remember that was my first experience, was a guided meditation. And part of the visualization you were guided to do was to imagine that you were in a particular location and then wait to see if somebody approached you, an entity or a person or whatever approached you in that particular scenario. And somebody did. But again, I feel like that was more of a kind of a one-off or maybe a two-off. But I personally believe that if you are open to it, that you, maybe not even if you're open to it, so I might be controversial here, but I personally think that we all have some sort of spirit energy that's looking out for us. And depending on your faith or how you look at things or your spiritual beliefs, that entity or that spirit energy that's looking out for you could be different, right? So a lot of people work with angels, or some people might work with departed loved ones on the astral or in meditation. Some people might work with animal guides. Some people might work with something that is not human or animal and is I work with a mythological creature as a guide. My primary guide is a unicorn. So it just, I think, I firmly believe spirit comes to you in the form that is going to be most digestible to you, because if the goal is to help you and to support you, it's not going to necessarily come to you in a form that you would reject or be uncomfortable with, unless I think that there is a lesson that somebody's trying to get through to you, and it needs to shake you up to get that lesson across. I hope that's making some kind of sense. I'm also going to make sure my volume's down so that nothing starts playing in the background. And I'm going to open up the chat in another window because I'm using StreamYard, but sometimes the StreamYard comments are a little bit lagged. Okay, so let's check in with people here. So before I dive more into like sort of the hows and the who's and the how, how to kind of go about this, I'm curious who all in the room, I'm starting to see some comments come in already, who in the room is already working with spirit guide or spirit guides. And if you want to share any of your, like, maybe how you first encountered them, how you connected with them, because I'm going to be getting into that next. And I'm just curious about other people's connections and experiences. Hello, Betsy's family. Hi, everybody. Just coming in. I have weird brain things happening lately. Weird word things, too. Like I say randomly wrong words in situations. It's the strangest thing. Donna says, I talk with my dad and first husband who are departed regularly. Yeah. Chris, the spirits wear our imagination like clothing. They appear to us in the most beneficial manner. Yes, I agree. Totally. Kristen, I do not, but I'm looking to see if I have any. My belief is everybody has them. It's just a matter of connecting, meeting, and then building a relationship with. Heather, I have a fox spirit guide who I also met in meditation. Nice. Ellerina, just one, my grandmother, and she came to me during an out-of-body experience. That is beautiful. Ancestors come to me in dreams. Cleo, I have an animal guide, first met in journey work. Yes. Kim J, I've met them but haven't worked with them yet beyond calling for support in tough situations. Let's see if I missed any others. Celestial, I'm trying to figure out if I have a guide, and if I do, who the heck it is. Yeah, this is what a lot of us want to know, is we want to know who is it that we're working with. You can have multiples. I think that's an important point. Sometimes it's kind of like, at least my belief. And again, all of this is coming from my perspective, but for me, it's a lot like thinking of soulmates. Like, you don't necessarily just have one. Like, it's not like if you miss one, or if you have, you haven't yet built a relationship with one, you can't have a relationship with other. I think of spirit very much in that sort of like, you can have many, and it's okay. Chris, I asked one of my guides what he was. He said, a pneuma. I had to look it up. It's Greek for breath of life, spirit. That is beautiful. It's, I think, one of the most validating experiences that you can have is when you learn something about a spirit guide that you don't think you know logically or cerebrally, and then you go to look it up and it makes sense. That happened to me with one of my experiences, and it was really cool. Heather, I also am trying to figure out if Jesus and Mary Magdalene are spirit guides. If so, I don't believe they are the literal Jesus and Mary Magdalene, but are using their forms. Yeah, I would agree. I had a relationship with Jesus when I was like a teen and very much had that personal relationship that I'm about to describe with spirit guides. But I don't think that was, yeah, exactly, same thing. I think that that was an energy that was supporting me in that form because that's what was digestible to me at that time in my life, which I know is, again, controversial, but that's what my experience has been. Betsy, I feel them but can't hear anything. I hear a ringing in your ear. Okay, that could be worth exploring, right? Now, I'm a very visual person. I have a very powerful imagination, I guess you could say, or my ability to visualize comes pretty easily to me. There are a lot of people where visualization can be really challenging. So keep in mind that a lot of what I'm going to share with you about my experiences relies on the fact that it's very easy for me to visualize, and that may not work for everybody. And I think that's important to point out. I personally do the best when I am when I want to work in the astral or work in meditation. I often do really, really better. I do the best with guided meditation. And because I'm very particular about the kind of work that I want to do, sometimes I need to record my own guided meditations. And so I'll write them and I'll record them. But it's weird for me to listen to my own voice. So sometimes what I'll do is I will record a guided meditation and then I will either record myself speaking fairly quickly and slow my voice down, or I'll try, that's usually what works the best, let's be honest, or I'll try to speak slowly and then speed up the recording so that it doesn't quite sound like me. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's one of the things that has helped me. Kim, my experience is just knowing things but not being able to explain why. Claircognizance, Kim, that's powerful. That's what Peggy's clair is claircognizance. Kristen, one of my concerns is that my imagination is making up what I want and not ones that actually exist. So let's talk about that for a second. So let's say, for the sake of the conversation, you are making it all up. Okay? And let's say the advice you get from your made-up spirit guide is helpful to you and helps you to live your best life, to be more confident, to work towards your goals. Does it matter at that point if it's made up? And I say that because I think it's important to recognize that what if what you're really tapping into is your own inner wisdom? And if so, is that a bad thing? As long as the result is positive for you and is helpful to you and leads you down a path that feels nourishing and positive and healthy and safe, then is it bad if they're not real? And yeah, so that's kind of where I land with it. It's like, what if I'm not tapping into anything outside of myself at all? And I accept that's entirely possible. And if that's the case, if the advice I'm getting is sound, then I'm cool with that, because it means that I've just managed to perhaps peel away the layers of my own personal ego and connect to some kind of deep truth that's helping me and making me feel held and supported and loved and nourished. And if that's the case, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Chris says the imaginal is part of the astral. Yes, thank you. We put up, oh, I just lost it. Where did it go? Where did it go? No. We put up dividers between real and imagined, but they can be the same. Yes, yes, yes. Agree. My grandma always explained Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy that way, B says. They are spirits not to get hung up with the physical form. Let's see. Animal spirit guide is a barred owl, Deb says. Found barred owl feathers for many years and have had visits from these and other owls since then. Jack says, I had a similar question with voices, like how can you tell if you're hearing a spirit or your mental state? And I think it's really important. It's really important because we can be spoken to if we assume that we are connecting partly with some inner voice or inner wisdom or inner something. Keep in mind that there are parts of you that maybe are more shadowy, right? So you want to use discernment when you're connecting on the astral or you're connecting in spirit, and consider the advice you're given. Does it feel true? Does it feel helpful? Does it make you feel safe? And I think that's important, because I do believe you can also tap into energies that aren't so helpful if you're not careful and you're not using your discernment and you're not, staying aware and mindful of your experiences. So, oh, no worries, Katie, welcome. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the progression that I experienced with my primary spirit guide And then I'll check in with the chat again here. I'm going to also open the other chat. I said I was going to, and then I didn't. So I'm going to do that. So my primary guide is in the form of a unicorn. And I'm always very hesitant to talk about that. That may be one of the reasons I haven't made this video before now, because I always feel like people are going to mock that. But on a very, very real level, I seriously and in an adult manner connect with unicorn energy. It's not so I see them as a being, to answer your question, Alana. Very vivid, three-dimensional. But again, keep in mind, my experiences are based on me having a very, very strong ability to visualize. I have very vivid visuals. So my guide is a unicorn. And I partly actually rejected the idea of a unicorn guide for years for the very reason I just said, which is I almost felt like embarrassed. Like, no, it's not going to be a unicorn. That's too much of a trope. That's too much of like, everybody knows I love unicorns. It'd be like if my guide was Hello Kitty or something. Like I kind of felt like
It's not.
it's no, it's not. But I felt like I
Not
was really kind of embarrassed and worried about that. So I think I could have met my guide earlier if I'd have actually been more open to one of the I think unicorns, I don't know if they're a symbol of Christ. That sounds familiar, but I don't know enough to answer that question. Yes, national symbol of Scotland. So how it was for me is I have lots of stops and starts with different guides, most of whom I don't remember. Heidi's like, I wouldn't expect anything different for you, Lisa. And it gets better because the picture I put on the thumbnail for this video is the closest picture I could find of what reminds me of what my guide looks like on the astral. But he very much looks like if a unicorn and a Clydesdale were to get together, that's what he is like. So he's very big and strong and like muscular and has the like really furry hooves and all that kind of thing. And I'm going to go down probably a whole rabbit hole talking about all this, and I'm probably going to be a little all over the place. Wait, who feels called out about Hello Kitty? Molly? Hey, now I feel called out. Oh, Hello Kitty, yeah. But this is the thing. If you can get in your own way when it comes to meeting a spirit guide, connecting and building a relationship. If you think it's not possible, like I'm not going to get visited by okay, good example. I'm not going to get visited by Mary Magdalene. That's ridiculous. I would never see Mary Magdalene. She's not going to come for just me. And then you see her in a visual or in a meditation, you may reject it, put it out of your mind, and then you don't connect. Yes, a Budweiser unicorn. Lennon, exactly. So here's how I initially met and then have continued to build a relationship with my primary spirit guide. The first step for me was building an astral temple. So I want to start there because depending on how much experience you have doing visualizations or building an astral place you can go in meditation, you may not have heard of that before. But the idea of an astral temple, at least as I understood it at the time, was to basically build a location that was very powerful and strong in your mind that you could easily bring to mind again and again and again and again. And the idea is that when you build this space for yourself, the more energy and time and repetition you spend in this place, the firmer it gets in your mind's eye, in your imagination, in your third eye, depending on how you want to view it. And the stronger that it gets, yes, Alana said, this is exactly where I'm going. The chat's a little behind, so you may not, I may be answering that question too late. You probably have already figured it out, but yeah. So building an astral temple is where, and you can actually do this very logically and cerebrally. If you're like, I really want to build an astral temple that looks a certain way, you can sketch it out in real life. You can imagine, this is what I'm going to want it to look like. This is what I want to have there. Or another way to sort of lay the foundation for another way to lay the foundation for an astral temple is to do a meditation where your entire goal of the meditation is to, once you get very relaxed and you feel your breathing's really calm, to picture a place you feel safe. The safest possible place you can imagine, the place where you feel the most secure and the most safe. And you just use the word safe over and over again in your mind, and you see what comes to mind. You may be thinking you're going to build an astral temple that's an indoor space, like some kind of actual physical temple. Or when you do this visualization, if you're going into it thinking it's going to be a physical building of some kind, like a temple or a room, and then, or a yurt or something. I always wanted a yurt, but I still haven't built one of those on the astral. Anyway, and then you go into your meditation and you start thinking, where do I feel safe? Where's the place I feel safest? It may not be what you expect. You may find it's on a beach. You may find, for me, it's a grove. And it wasn't what I expected. I expected it was going to be something else entirely. I mean, now it makes sense, grove, unicorn. Like I was definitely headed, being either led or headed in a particular direction. I meditate however I'm comfortable. So I have a yoga background, so I'm often sitting for meditation. I'm usually pretty comfortable because I have a meditation cushion I can use, or I'll set myself up with a pillow under my hips in the bed. But I've also done laying down meditation. The problem is I fall asleep when I do that. So you have to kind of know you when you're setting up for meditation or for astral travel and think about what works well for you. Lennon says, if spiders come up, are they just spiders or in a space, like in a web, in a forest, on a windowsill? I would look at all that too. Yeah, exactly. You want to be very, when you're, so yeah, sorry, let me get back to my point because I don't lose my train of thought real quick. So first step is to create or build your astral temple, your astral space, your astral home, whatever that's going to be. So I like to make sure it's a place I feel very, very safe, where I feel very protected. I also, as part of building and developing this space in my imagination, I'll visit it multiple times. So like many, many times. So initially, you just want to kind of have a setting. And so you either plan your setting in advance and then just double check it on the astral by making sure you feel very safe, or you leave it wide open and you go in, you go into meditation, you kind of try to clear the clutter, focus on your breath, and then imagine a place where you would feel very safe. And let that be a very visual, strong thing that you focus on in that meditation. And then either in the same session or over multiple sessions, you start to fill in details, right? So you may start with like a beach. And then over time, it may be a beach at night. It might be a beach at night with a particular grove of trees nearby. Or it might be a beach at night with a particular grove of trees nearby and a bench over here. And then slowly, with repetition, it will start to get more solidified for you, so that when you do decide to go, for me now, when I go astral travel, when I do these kinds of meditation to visit my astral temple, it's really quick. It's like I close my eyes and I'm like, oh, there it is, because I've done it for so many years that it's very natural. So I think details are important on the astral. I think it's important to feel like you have a protected space. So I like to build in layers of protection, which I'm not going to go into detail about because that's part of the protection. but I like to build in something that feels like a strong protective energy around my space so that I know it's secure. And the thing is, once you've built up a place that you can go that you know is secure, that is you, because you've built a place that feels like you, that feels bonded to you, connected to you, and that you've put in all these personal details into, you're creating an environment where the only energy that can come in is an energy that has your best interest at heart, right? An energy that is also coded to you, that is also going to resonate with you, because you've created a space that is literally you on the astral. And so for me, that is the foundation of meeting a spirit guide. And so that's sort of step one, I guess, is build an astral temple, build an astral space. And you can do other things on the astral. You can explore, you can go other places, but then if you get jarred or you feel uncomfortable, you can always go back to the place where you feel safe. I even low-key taught astral temple building in my Yoga Nidra classes. Yoga Nidra is like a guided meditation kind of experience, but I low-key would invite people in the beginning of that experience to picture a place they feel safe, and to remember that they can return to that place at any point in that meditation. If they get uncomfortable or they feel like they just need a break, they can always go back there. It doesn't have to be complex, and I'm making it sound complex, but you can put as much energy into it as you want. You can keep it as simple as you want or as detailed as you want. In my experience, the more details you build, the easier it is to return, and the easier it is to kind of go into that astral state of mind when you go there. I do mean metaphorically. So I'm literally meaning you're visualizing. Now, some people will create Pinterest boards. I actually have a Pinterest board, I think, called Astral Inspiration or something like that. And what I'll do is when I find really beautiful images that I want to sort of visually plug into my astral space, like somebody posted, I think ages ago, a gorgeous like rose quartz or amethyst bathtub or something. And I was like, that'd be really cool on the astral. So I put it on that board. so you can, over time, you can start to add little details to your astral temple. But yeah, we're literally talking a place that you close your eyes and you imagine yourself in. So if you make it very specific to you, and if you add lots of little details like that, if you create a vision board, if you are an artist and you draw or you paint, anything you can do to make it feel real. This is a really like low key, like nerdy example, but one of my favorite things about the video game The Sims is being able to like build the house and like put in all the furniture, and like I use the money cheat so you can like buy anything you want. It's kind of like that, right? Like you get to build what you want, what's going to feel natural to you, what's going to feel safe to you. So, but what to me makes it solid in my practice is the fact that as I've added details to it over the years, when I close my eyes, I know right where everything is, right? I know right where I am. I know what it's going to feel like. I know what it's going to look like. And so it's a really powerful way to transport yourself into another state of mind, is imagining the same place over and over and over again. And I love that game. Yay to the nerds. Oh, I have a board called My World. Exactly. So you can totally use Pinterest boards are wonderful. Does the temple have to be astral for those of us who have no experience with astral travel? Okay, so let me be specific here. When I say astral travel and guided or self-led visualization, to me, they're essentially the same thing. My goal is to go to a place I've envisioned. When I close my eyes and I calm my breathing and I mentally put myself in that place, when I visualize myself in that place, in my experience, that's what astral travel feels like. Now you can take astral travel a whole other level, right? Like you can astrally project yourself in places that exist in reality. But to me, the easiest form of astral travel is to visualize a place and visualize yourself in that place and make it as real for yourself as you can. Add smells if you can do that. If you can imagine you smell, you don't have to actually be able to smell it. Does that make sense? If it's like it's a rainy day and the rain is hitting the earth and you know what that smells like and you can try to recall the memory of it, that's a visualization of a scent, right? You're not necessarily physically experiencing that scent. Yes, Lennon makes an excellent point. When I was new to this, I wrote down my own guided visualization, recorded it, and played it for myself. And that's what I was saying earlier about like I would actually slow my voice down or speed it up. I think nowadays you can actually get voice changing apps. But the reason I would change the voice is because I found it distracting to listen to my own outside voice in meditation. So I would actually record my voice and then slow it down or speed it up to make it sound not quite like me. And then I would listen to that back. A lot of people, somebody asked how to do it if you have a hard time visualizing. Katie, yeah. So this is the thing. Not everybody's going to have an easy time visualizing. If you have a hard time visualizing, what you can do, at least in the beginning, is definitely record a script. Like write down what you think you want this place to look like, plan it out, describe it, write it down, and then listen to it, and then listen to the same one again and again and again, and eventually you'll be able to sort of, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think you'll eventually be able to build a more solid mental image of that place. Yeah, Lorena, yes, I have a New York accent, no good for narrating meditations. The other thing you could do is look up guided meditations that describe where they're going to take you. Like let's say you find a really good guided meditation for a beach scene, and it says, guided meditation, go for a walk on the beach. You're like, okay, listening to something like that to get an idea of what that experience is like can either help you to springboard off of that visualization and add some details to make it yours, or use that script and start to write your own and record your own. Some people might look at that Pinterest board filled with all those like images that they've imagined their astral temple that they'd like their astral temple to have, and then look at those images right before you close your eyes to meditate and try to recall those images. That can help if you have trouble with visualization too. So what I like to do, oh, I almost spilled my coffee. That would have been bad. What I like to do is build my astral temple, and then when it feels very solid for you and you've spent some time creating it and visiting it again and again, then you go to your astral temple with the intention that you're open to meeting a guide. I'd like to meet my guide. And so you go there, and the whole intention is to meet your guide. Now, some people will actually visualize a meeting place in their astral space. So I think I did spill coffee on myself. My first time meeting a guide in this way, the visualization said there was going to be a bench, and when you went to this particular clearing, you would see this bench and your guide would be sitting there waiting for you. That's a great way to do it if you're thinking you're going to meet a humanoid guide. It didn't work for me with Clyde. But like assuming that you're going to go someplace and meet a humanoid type guide, or you're open to meeting that type of a guide, you could imagine walking down a really long path in the woods until you get to a clearing where there is a bench and your guide will be waiting there for you. So there's different ways to create a space where meeting a guide is possible. Angela, I have that app. I love Nature Space. I love Nature Space. So that app is like really immersive soundscapes. So they have ones where you literally sound like you're walking through the woods, really good with headphones or earbuds or something. They have ones that sound like you're literally by a brook or you're out in a rainy. Oh, they're so good. They're so good. When they were new and I had an Apple iPod Touch, I think, I bought so many of the tracks, and now because I have an Android, I've lost a bunch of them and the company's not responding to get them back. That's a total sidetrack. Let me check in with comments, which I never did open up the other chat. I'm excited about this topic because I feel really strongly about my experiences, but I also want to make sure I'm answering your guys' questions. So definitely speak up if anything I'm saying isn't making sense. Feel free to tag me or type it in all caps because I'm also using StreamYard. Where's my, there it is. Okay, now I can see the chat better. Nature Space has some tracks that come with it for free, and then you can buy extra tracks or extra, and it's a loop. So they've got a few that come with the app, and then you can do more. Hello, everybody just joining. Yes, Moira, some people are visual, but visualization can be auditory, or you can focus on your other senses, work with what works for you. Absolutely. As I said, I'm very, very, very visual. So that's my place I go, is very visual. But you can definitely work with tools. You can find, as somebody, I think I saw somebody in chat mentioned, you can look around on the internet. You will find guided meditations intended to help you meet your guide. What I think is really important is I do think it's important if you're going to do any kind of astral work or any kind of journey work, as some people might call it, where you close your eyes and you visualize yourself in different places. If you're going to do any of that kind of work, I do think it's really important to have a safe place that you can visualize, because sometimes you will encounter things when you're meditating that make you uncomfortable, and either pulling yourself out of that meditation right away, which is super valid. You can do that. No, nothing wrong with doing that. Or having a place you can go to visualize yourself that you feel safe is really important. Okay, so Christine says, so how long did it take you to connect from when you first tried to meet a guide? So when I first set the intention I wanted to meet a guide, every single time I've ever done it, I've met a guide right away. The guide that has been with me the longest, though, was somebody who my unicorn guide. With my unicorn guide, when I set the intention to go meet a guide that day in that first meditation where we met, I did meet him right away. Our relationship took a little bit of time to build because, again, I was like, seriously, a unicorn? Like, I mean, I was super excited, but I was also like doubtful. So it was a little tricky in the beginning. Ellerina says, you're supposed to use a silver cord to tether yourself. I think if something like that gives you a confident feeling and makes you feel safer, I think you should absolutely do it. If you're nervous about astral travel or journey work, then having something to anchor you to where you physically are could be really reassuring, whether it's a grounded crystal that you keep in your lap or hold on to, or something like that. That could be really, really helpful. Ooh, Moira asked a good question. How does this compare with tarot path working? They're very similar. Path working is essentially a guided visualization or astral travel, in my opinion. It's basically the same thing. The only difference is with path working, you're kind of starting with a preconceived idea of where you're going to go. So with path working, you're looking at a card image and you're imagining yourself going into that card image and interacting with those characters potentially, or watching them and seeing how they interact with one another. And I think that can be a really great way to practice astral travel. I would recommend doing that with really nice cards that make you feel good and safe, like the star. I wouldn't suggest you like pathwork into the tower if you're new to astral travel or guided visualization. Like, keep it to the gentle cards, the happy cards. Lennon brought up something really good. I like taking simple stories like Cinderella and visualize the whole thing. It has helped so much. Here's the thing about visualization period. A lot of people say I'm crappy at visualization. And I'm not going to say that everybody is going to find it as easy as everybody else. I worded that weird, but hopefully you followed the thought. However, just like with anything else, with any muscle that you're going to use, it's going to get stronger the more you use it. So if you start with very simple visualizations, oh, I've got a technique. Okay, somebody taught me this at a meditation class years and years and years ago. I think it was actually in one of the circles I used to go to. But if you're new to visualization, one of the easiest ways to start to practice visualizing so that it gets easier and easier is to work with something that's super familiar and tangible and memorable. So the first technique I ever experienced with this was a piece of fruit. And I think it was a lemon. I think it was a lemon because it was so tart. Sorry, see if I can do this properly. So the idea was to practice holding a piece of fruit, close your eyes and picture a piece of fruit in your mind. And in this case, I think it was a citrus fruit, either an orange or a lemon. And so the idea was to close your eyes and picture an orange, something you know you've seen, that you've touched, that you've held, you know what it looks like, you've seen a bunch of them in your life. So you would close your eyes and you would visualize an orange. And you would visualize the texture of the orange, the color of the orange. You'd visualize everything about it that you could. You'd sort of rotate it in your mind's eye, look at it from different angles, and then you would visualize like either cutting the orange in half or like peeling the orange, and like the smell and what happens for a lot of people, if you work with a food item, especially in the beginning, is that as you're visualizing this orange, and especially as you imagine like sort of smelling the juice or like cutting it and getting that like fresh citrus scent, a lot of people will have a physiological response. Their mouth will salivate, or something will happen where they'll really get a sensation that goes along with that visual. That kind of visualization practice is really helpful because it gives you a tangible experience of going, okay, I know what an orange smells like. I know what an orange tastes like. I visualize this orange and my mouth salivated. And it validates your experience because you know what you're experiencing is a really strong sensation, right? I don't know if that made sense. You guys will have to tell me. Katie says, Moira, I was wondering about using dance for visualization or yogic movements. Oh, for sure. If you're a very tactile person, then a memorized yoga flow or a memorized dance or freeform dance or something that lets you just lose yourself could be a really great way to connect with that part of yourself. Heather, I'm a daydreamer. In the beginning, it took me ages to figure out the daydreaming and visualization are the same thing, and I was adamant I couldn't do it. Yes. Yes. Yeah, Marion said, I used to teach that technique. Using the citrus fruit is used because it causes the strongest reaction on the taste buds. Yes. Donna, I do so much path working with tarot and oracle cards. That's helped me with not only visualization, but also it's enhanced my intuition. Yeah, tarot, working with path working, especially if you're already interested in tarot and you want to like give yourself something to visualize, because starting from nothing for a lot of people is really intimidating. If you're visualizing something from scratch, that's a lot more challenging than looking at a picture on Pinterest or a tarot card and going, I want to put myself there, because then you have something to jump off of. Your brain has something to grab onto and build on versus just building from scratch. I love building from scratch, but I've been doing this kind of stuff for a long, long time. So for me, a lot of it comes really naturally. If you're new to it, yeah, start with some kind of jumping off point, some kind of springboard. Kristen, drumming is essential for me to get into the underworld. Yeah, drumming is really good. Repetitive sound, excellent. And that Nature Space app people were talking about, one of the tracks is actually a shamanic drumming track. And so it's got like an environmental sound that's really immersive. And then it's also got a layer of drumming as well. Betsy family, I am on Instagram at Supportive Tarot, but it's the social media app that I'm the worst at keeping up on. So I do have stuff on there. Definitely follow me. I try to put stuff up once in a while, but I'm less consistent than YouTube. I'm best on YouTube. As I'm listening to you, I was picturing it, and as I did, there was a worm in it. Any feedback? Well, Alana, I learned this technique from Peggy. If you see something in a visual or see something in a dream, the very first question to ask yourself is, what did it make you feel? Were you repulsed by the worm? Were you like, oh, that's interesting? Or were you like, did you think it was cute? Because your emotional reaction tells you a lot about what it could mean, right? It could be your own self-doubt as you're visualizing. Maybe something was just in there to shake things up. Or maybe it was your brain's way or your astral self's way to say, hello, I'm here. And it's not always, what you're going to be expecting. I think anybody who has done journey work or astral travel or visualization work or meditation work in this way could say that it doesn't always go according to plan. Like in my experience, you can say, I'm going to go to the beach, and you know exactly what you want to visualize. And then you get to the beach and suddenly here's somebody you didn't expect you were going to be talking to, could be a guide, or here's an animal you didn't think was going to show up. And those experiences are really, really great for diving into the layers of what visualization and visualize. Why can't I get this word out? Thank you. Visualization and astral work. Those are the gifts in it, right? Pro tip, really important. If you're going to do any kind of journey work, any kind of astral travel, have something next to you so that as soon as you're done, as soon as you come out, you can free write easily and quickly. If you type quicker than you handwrite, have a device you can type on. If you're better with your thumbs on your phone, have your phone nearby. If you are better handwriting, have a notebook and pen nearby. Have something close, simple, and easy to be able to write all of your thoughts and notes down so that you can get everything out of your head as soon as your visualization is done. Because just like keeping a dream journal, I think Kay's cat is walking on her keyboard or dog or child, one of those things. So it's just like with a dream, if you don't write it away immediately, it fleets. It fleets. It's gone. It's fleeting. But yeah, I really like bringing crystals with me to meditations, but in the beginning, just keep it really, really, really simple. Make sure that your key focus is feeling safe and protected. I think that's extremely important, because even if you don't believe that there are malefic or not good energies, negative energies, even if you don't believe that those can come at you, I still think in general, you're going to have a much more positive experience if you feel safe and protected all the time when you're visualizing, when you're journeying, when you're dreaming, when you're astral traveling. Some people call it tripping on the astral. Whenever you're out of your physical body in that way, I think I feel a certain degree of vulnerability. Luna Soleil takes over my space. Is Luna Soleil a cat? I have to know because I said cat. I have to really ground myself before I go deep into guided meditation. I tend to get a little dizzy if I don't ground well. Also, I think it's really important to eat something almost as soon as you come out as well, and make sure you've eaten beforehand. I don't like to eat right before. I like it to have been a couple of hours since I've eaten, but eating right after is a great way to physically ground your body. Moira says, I ground myself with the tree visualization before I do anything else. I think that's really smart. I think everybody has I'm a lot more loosey-goosey with my astral travel today than I was when I started. When I started, I set up a lot of rituals for myself. I cast a circle so that I was in a safe space. I made sure that I had all my things around me. Nowadays I'm like, if I want to go on the astral, I'm going to go. Like, I don't need a lot now because I'm very secure in the security system, I guess you could say, of my astral temple. I feel very safe. I feel very looked after. I feel very protected. But yeah, for me, I almost always need to eat something right after I have done any kind of magical work or any kind of astral travel or any kind of journey work. But yeah, grounding is super, super important. And if you don't know what grounding really is, the main goal of grounding is to make sure you're not just spending your own personal energy, that you're replacing the energy you're spending whenever you do magical work or energy work. And so in a nutshell, grounding is tapping your body and your energy into the earth, into a source of energy that's much bigger than you, that is boundless, that is limitless. And so a lot of people will do a tree visualization where you imagine that your spiritual self or your energetic body is growing roots into the ground. And you can do this even if you're on like the 20th floor. You just imagine really long roots, right? Not a big deal. But you imagine really like your roots just digging deep into the earth. And you imagine almost like a fountain that your energy is kind of being drawn up from the earth. And then as you spend it out, it's just floating back down to the earth. It's getting pulled back up, kind of like how I guess rain works, like scientifically, right? The rain falls, then we have condensation, the rain goes back up, it goes into the cloud, it comes back down. I'm not good with science, but that's like the general the general idea is that you are connected, you are tapped in, so you're not just spending your own energy. If you are doing magical or energetic work and you're just outputting energy and you're not replacing it, then you're going to be very depleted, very tired, possibly floaty or dizzy or disconnected, and that can be a problem too. Nice, Marion. So Marion said, in order to ground, I visit my dragon guide as they live in the earth's core. Beautiful. Yeah. So Alana says about the worm, right? I would say I felt a bit annoyed, but then confused. I find that oftentimes when I've tried meditation, there's always something that has intruded. I think your word choice here is interesting because I feel similarly when things pop up at me in astral that I'm not planning for. And that is for me, and I'm only speaking for me, but for me, that is my control stuff coming up. Because my shadow stuff is around control, lack of control growing up, looking for control, wherever I can find it, especially when my shadow bubbles up. So for me, when something startles me or catches me off guard in a visualization, there's a part of me that is unsettled because I feel like I'm not in control of that experience in that moment. So that's for me what I would be looking at, because that's what that would mean. So it's kind of like looking at how it made you feel and then uncovering what that might mean for you personally. Jujubee, I like to imagine that my feet are rooted into the earth. I once walked somebody through a guided meditation of grounding where they were like, I was imagining them, okay, imagine your body is the trunk of the tree, imagine the roots going down. And she actually panicked because she felt like she physically couldn't move for a second. So be mindful that there's things that can bubble up when we start to do these kinds of techniques where you might not expect a particular sensation, right? Okay, perfect, Alana. Yeah, so it was probably that, hey, I didn't plan for this. Why is this here? Katie, my anxiety likes to come out in a way. Stressful dreams, so guided meditation may be a good way to take this back and practice ways to change dreams. Ooh, I have so much to say about that. So I am a huge, what initially made astral travel, I think, easier for me is because I was an avid, like repeated lucid dreamer as a teenager. Like I would say like from probably around 8 years old through high school, I was very avid lucid dreamer. And lucid dreaming is essentially what that is it's when I'm not going to try to describe the science because I'm going to suck at that bit. But how it feels when you do it is that you're in a dream and you are able to bring some conscious awareness to the fact that you are in a dream. And if that happens, if you're able to do that for yourself, you can actually do whatever you want in dreams. It can be really powerful. It's a wonderful, magical way to really play with exploring the astral. It can be a little bit trippier than a really planned out, guided, or self-led visualization because you're in the dream world, which can be a lot more trippy. It's a lot harder for me to.
What is formal terms you're using?
Is it a lot of formal terms?
Yeah, trippy, trippier.
She's making fun of me. But lucid dreaming was actually one of the ways that I took back my nighttime, because I used to get a lot of really horrible recurring nightmares, things where I felt out of control, which makes a lot of sense as an adult looking back. But dream world became a place where I could have some control and some power and some agency in my life, and it became a really empowering experience. So just to kind of circle back to Katie's point, yes, guided meditation can be a beautiful way to reconnect and take some power back on the astral, and it can also be something that could potentially lead to the ability to lucid dream as well. Yes, Chris, oh my God, I just got chills. My childhood nightmares stopped when I turned around and faced the things that chased me. I became a bear or a wolf, something stronger and more powerful than the monsters. Yes. Hilariously, when I was 8 to 10 years old, my favorite thing to do when I recognized I was dreaming and could be lucid was get on a broom and fly. Fast forward, I'm a witch. Go figure. But as a kid, that was what came to mind was I wanted to fly. I did a lot of flying in lucid dreams. But my favorite way to fly was to hop on a broom and fly. And this was all pre-Harry Potter, you know what I mean? But I used to have a lot of tornado nightmares. I used to have a lot of recurring nightmares. I used to have a lot of like running away from bad people, and sometimes those people were people that were related to me, and it was crazy times. So being able to sort of take some power back was really good for me. But that was a whole sidetrack I didn't plan. I love these chats. Oh, Alana, yeah. So lucid dreaming you could be lucid dreaming if you remember your dreams very vividly. But for me, my experience has been lucid dreaming is when you're able to actually take control in a way of what's happening to you in your dreams. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what is the thing with Spirited Away and Kiki's delivery service? Because this came up in yesterday's chat too, I think. Yeah, tornado nightmares. Yeah, totally. I have a real phobia of tornadoes. There's a whole thing there. But yeah, so definitely. And what I did in my dreaming when I was learning how to lucid dream, again, as a kid, so keep this in mind, but I would dream, and my goal when I went to bed at night was I'm going to remember that I'm dreaming. I'm going to tell myself I'm dreaming. I would go to bed with that intention. And then in the dream, and this is where it gets kind of crazy, in the dream, I'd be like, hey, I'm dreaming. And sometimes I would dream that I knew I was dreaming and I wasn't actually lucid. So I wouldn't be able to do what I wanted to do. And sometimes I'd be like, hey, I'm dreaming. And then I would be able to do whatever I wanted to do. So when I could actually do the stuff I wanted to do, like fly, then I knew I was lucid dreaming. But if I couldn't actually get any control over what I was doing or what was happening to me, then I knew I wasn't quite lucid. That's how I could tell. Oh my gosh, I really want to watch these movies now. Can I watch them online somewhere? I don't have cable or anything. Like I have Netflix and YouTube. It is extremely common, and I'm going to throw this out here. So I was taught from my baby witch days that when you start doing astral travel, when you start doing guided visualizations, that sometimes your shadow stuff in the form of fears and anxieties can crop up. Okay. This is why it's really, really, really important to me in my own practice to build a astral temple that I feel is extremely secure. So whether you visualize some kind of energetic security guards patrolling your temple, whether you visualize an energetic force field around your temple, whatever you do to create security around your astral temple, create something so that you know you're safe. Because I do find that sometimes stuff crops up when I'm just randomly wandering around in the astral, like I'm going to go on a stroll in a forest path, and then suddenly there's a big hairy spider or something. That happens. And I can zap myself back to my astral temple where I'm safe. Heather says, I used to dream either that my parents turned into monsters or that I went home one day and they had just packed up and moved out. That's really scary. I used to have a recurring nightmare that my mother was trying to kill me. Fun times. I think we have a lot of I think a lot of our stuff comes out in the dream world or on the astral, right? A lot of our anxieties or our fears. So those are real things that I think a lot of us deal with. Cleo, I used to dream my toys were possessed or demonic. I said demonic. Doomsday religious upbringing. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Christine, you're probably going to laugh about this, but this is like legit. I don't ever know how I get to my astral temple. Nope. As far as I'm concerned, it's like a beam me up Scotty kind of thing. I'm just there. Like, I'm like, okay, I want to be in my astral temple now, and I'm there. Now, some people, that's really trippy and I said trippy again. So for some people, that's difficult to do. If it's difficult for you to just picture yourself in a place with no segue, really useful visualizations are long pathways. So like a long walk through a wood, through a safe wooded forest, for example, or a long walk down a hallway, like a dark hallway, like some light, obviously, so you feel safe, but like a long walk down a hallway, a long walk down a path, walking up or down is sometimes really useful. Another meditation that I've done to travel to a place is, I call it the rainbow cloud elevator. I just made that up, but like that's kind of what it is. It's a chakra visualization I use where I picture myself sort of lying or sitting comfortably on a cloud, and I picture that cloud is red for the root chakra, and because I'm comfortable working with chakras. And then I imagine that root chakra starts to that cloud root chakra colored cloud, the red cloud starts to lift up, and then it becomes orange. And then it becomes yellow for the solar plexus, and then it becomes green for the heart chakra, and then blue, and then purple, and so forth and so on. And then it sort of turns into a silvery color. And the goal is by the time it's silvery, I'm on the astral, and I can just step out onto the forest path, or I can step out onto the beach, or I can step out wherever I'm going. And I find that visual is really, really useful. And I've also used the same visualization when I need to ground by imagining I'm stepping onto a silver cloud, then it's purple, then it's blue, green, orange, or yellow, orange, reverse rainbow colors. That just reminded me. Oh, so if you want to play with visualization, I actually have a chakra and tarot themed guided meditation that I wrote, created, edited, and put on this YouTube channel. So I'm going to grab the link, because if you want to play with visualization, this is a really, really fantastic, empowering chakra guided journey that you could play with and try. And I think it's pretty detailed. And there are visualizations actually on the video. So if you're somebody who has a hard time visualizing, I think there's enough in the video to actually help give you a bit of a springboard. So let me just grab you guys the link so that you don't have to go search for it. Let's see. Chakra tarot. Let me toss this into the chat right now if I can find it. You'd think I could find stuff on my own channel, hey? That'd be good. Okay. I need the little search button. Ooh, Chris. Okay, sorry, I want to read this out loud because Chris has a good one. Chris says, I picture a giant tree with a big hole. I go into the cave-like hole and either travel a downward spiral into the underworld or upward spiral into the upper world. That is beautiful. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That's a super good one. Okay, there we go. Chakra. The only thing about this meditation is, for some reason, it keeps getting flagged for different music companies keep thinking I keeps flagging a particular type of chunk of the music and saying it's copyright, but I use the YouTube music library. So every once in a while it's unavailable for a short period of time, but it's stayed up. So we're good. Here is it's called the Self-Worth Guided Meditation, a tarot-inspired journey through the 7 chakras. I just put the link into the chat. So I spent a lot of time on this. And it's about 28 minutes long, so it's pretty long, but it takes you through 7 different major arcana cards that have inspired environments that are also correlated to the chakras. So it takes you from root to crown. And I find it really, really helpful. I've used it myself a couple times, even though I struggle with my own voice. And that's been really helpful. So yeah. Yeah, Alice in Wonderland, totally. So let's circle it back to guides a little bit, because we're spending a lot of time on the astral and I haven't really. So I guess there's not really a lot more to say, except to say that for me, the first part is meeting your guide. I also always physically connect with my guide. So now this feels comfortable and safe for me. You might be different. So, excuse me, if I'm meeting a human guide, then, and for me, I've only ever had human guides that I feel incredibly comfortable and safe with. There is one departed friend who I regularly meet on the astral, and we'll always have a nice big hug when we connect. That visualization is a bonding thing for me. So I really enjoy that. And when it comes to Clyde, I always have some physical contact, right? Like I either touch the side of I'm touching my neck, like that's going to make sense. I'll touch the side of his neck or his back or his flank or whatever. I have a physical touch that I'll do each time. Everybody's going to be different on that. And then the other thing is that, especially when you've just met a guide, if you've opened yourself up and you've been like, I want to meet a guide, and a guide comes to you, take an opportunity to either ask the guide about themselves or to just focus on allowing any messages they have for you to come through. and see if they say anything to you or they communicate. Sometimes they don't speak verbally, like Clyde doesn't speak verbally. That would be a serious Mr. Ed moment for me, and I don't think I can handle that. But Clyde communicates to me. I can definitely hear words in my head when I'm with him. And so I'll focus on any message or any information or any exchange we have, and I'll typically thank them and say goodbye shortly after that part of the meditation or that part of the journey. Because what I want to do is, once I've had that back and forth communication with my guide, I want to, as quickly as possible, be able to write it down. And I can't write it down if I hang out and go lounge on the beach on the astral for an hour afterwards. I'll forget, right? So I try to end my visualization after I've thanked them and said goodbye. And depending on how you do visualizations, like I have one of my guides often escorts me places. So the human guide, my departed friend that I'll regularly see, she'll meet me on the astral and she'll walk with me when I'm going someplace. Like let's say I want to do a journey to go to a particular location that I've imagined I want to visit. Let's say I want to visit a castle or something. She'll often walk with me on the path to the castle, but then she lets me have my experience. Let's see, what else? Yeah, so sometimes you might have a guide that literally guides you or comes with you, like a tour guide or an accompanying energy when you're going places on the astral or when you're journeying. Oh, Lennon, that's really interesting. Yeah, so you know his name and what he looks like. So when you say you don't know who he is, if you know his name and what he looks like, because they don't have to be anybody you know in your day-to-day mundane life either, which is interesting. I know, right, Moira? I don't know. Because to me, unicorns don't speak with their mouths, right? They speak telepathically. And I think that's because that's just my understanding of unicorn energy. And because that's my understanding, that's how he communicates with me. It's kind of like, let's say you had a guide who was a singer or something, and like they always communicated to you singing. That would make sense to a certain degree. I don't know. Maybe that's a really weird analogy. Many of my guides are animals. Shape-shifting with them has always been second nature for me. I'm so glad you said this. I'm so glad you said this because I was being super shy about sharing this bit. Chris says, I love flying as a hawk or a raven, the speed of my wolf spirit, the gentle strength of bear. I think that's really important and powerful. I worked with Clyde for probably a good 2 years before I started shape-shifting into a unicorn when I would go on the astral. And now, most of the time, I shape-shift on the astral. But that was a whole other level. And I was like, this is such a weird thing for me to talk about out loud with, because so much of this is an internal experience. Kay, my guides thus far are animals, except for one person. I used to think it was myself I was seeing, but now I realize it's likely a guide. I just see the back of her. Yeah, and maybe that's all you'll see, right? Sometimes that's the relationship. Sometimes that's what you're ready for. The first time I shapeshifted on the astral, I was really tripped out, but I was like, whoa. And it was really great. Now it's become, again, very, very natural and something that almost happens automatically when I go on the astral now. It's almost become like a relaxing thing in a way. Like I can just like let all the other stuff go and just shapeshift. It feels like almost more natural in a way than being humanoid, I guess, in my astral experiences. Yeah. And animals, I would say a lot of people initially find it easier to connect with an animal guide than a humanoid type guide, because of course in animals we understand in the natural world can share energy or can make us feel a way just by their presence, right? If you're on the beach and you are suddenly like seeing or interacting with, say, a sea turtle, you're not going to necessarily expect it to talk to you. It's a less complicated interaction in a weird way. It can be incredibly deep, but it can feel more approachable to people than imagining a human or even an angel, I think. I had a dream once that Clyde, my primary guide, gave me like a very stern talking to in a nightmare once. Or not a dream/nightmare. I mean, I got like, it was like a come to Jesus kind of like sit down, you're in trouble kind of talk. It was good. And I do tend to write that stuff down because I do think that when that stuff happens, it's because when that had happened, I hadn't actually gone and seen Clyde for like a really long time. And he was basically bitching me out, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you ignoring the work you're supposed to be doing? And it was like a very like scoldy kind of energy. But my guide has a very paternal, loving but stern, kind of strong energy about him. So that was very in character for who he is. Chris, I can feel them swell up in me when I need to connect to a certain energy in real life. Yes, I totally know what you mean by that. Protective energy of bear or quick thinking of fox. Time spent with them in the astral makes this easier. Yes. I think anytime you work on the astral repeatedly with the same kind of energy over and over and over again, it gets more solid. It's easier to connect to, easily to tap into. Butterfly Love Child, I've encountered persons, but I have no idea who they were. I got bitches out. Oh, you got bitched out. I think I get what you're saying. I think, Kate, how do I describe this? If you go into a meditation or a journey and you're very attached to how you want that journey to play out, it can actually create a barrier to what you want it can make it so what you want to happen can't happen. It's like there's too much tension around the experience. There's a certain amount of allowing that I feel like you need when you go on the astral. There's a certain amount of like acceptance, allowing, surrender to experience. Bye, Jennifer. That's sort of, I feel like, necessary to have the most expansive experiences, because I, as somebody who can be very rigid and like planned,
Really?
shut up. I'm gonna murder her. Oh my god, you're the worst. But because I can be like that, if I go into the astral like that, then I find I end up having very flat experiences. Not a lot happens because I'm not receptive enough to allow other energies in. I'm taking up so much space with my expectations that there's no room for anything to come and like sort of engage.
Really?
Shut up. I'm gonna kill her. Do you hear her? Really? Really?
I'm just being curious there, honey.
You're not being curious. You're being a brat.
Please.
Yeah.
Me? Never.
When I first met them,
Never would I ever.
never would I ever. When I first met the Morgan, I was running in a forest and then I was flying with her. It was cool but scary. Yeah. Something else. So I actually met the for lack of a better word, I'm going to use the word deity. And I'm hesitant to talk about this part of it because this kind of stuff for me is extremely personal. Yeah, it's extremely personal and also extremely, extremely real. But when I worked with this particular, the deity that I currently work with, the goddess that I currently work with, and I'm going to call her a goddess, not technically correct, but we're just going to roll with it. My dad had just passed away. Actually, it was before he passed away. I had been having all these synchronistic experiences about one specific deity, like over and over again, and they were very close together and they were undeniable. And it was like boom, 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 synchronicity, 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 to the point where I was like, what the heck? And then I went onto the astral and she was like, hello. Like, it was like a really obvious, like, and she's very like no nonsense. She's very like, this is who I am and what the heck? Why, basically sit up and pay attention. I've been trying to talk to you. Like, why are you not listening? It was that kind of an energy, and it was very obvious and it was very in my face. But if I had, say, when all those synchronicities happened, and then when she showed up in a meditation, I just suddenly saw her, if I had been like, that's not what I'm here for, I could have missed out on a really powerful bonding experience, right? And so that relationship feels a lot different than the guides. So to create a bit of a distinction between what I'm describing, when I work with guides, it feels like somebody is there to support my journey and to kind of hold my hand and reassure me when I need it, and also help me course correct when I'm off course, and to they're more comfortable. It's that the best way I know how to describe it is they're more comfortable and they're more comforting. So when I go and I spend time with a guide, I feel very held and safe and nurtured and like patted and like protected. When I'm working with deity, it feels more like, yeah, like a friend, almost more parental to me, slightly more parental and but that might be how I engage with them, right? Like I feel very looked after. I feel very protected. When I'm working with deity, my relationship with deity tends to be a lot more, what you see is what you get. It's not always going to be comfortable. It's not always going to feel nice. It's not always going to feel easy. It feels more demanding in a way. Like I feel like sit down and shut up. I have a message for you. And sometimes my guides can be a little bit like that, but they seem a lot more concerned about my feelings. Whereas working with deity feels a lot more about a relationship that's based on respect and I don't want to say doing what you're told, but there's a little bit of that in there. Like it's a little bit like it feels like a much bigger, more overwhelming energy and a lot bossier in a nice way. Like don't get me wrong, like I like that relationship. I'm very grateful for that relationship, but it's yeah, it's very like it's very yeah. My deity is very Queen of Cups, but more badass in a weird way. But kind of like, yeah, definitely, yes, authority. And I definitely get the feeling it doesn't feel as back and forth with deity to me. It feels a lot more like, it feels a lot more like, here's what I expect of you. And if you want to get where you need to get, you need to like listen. And I don't feel like I can solicit them, if that makes sense. I can ask for their help, but it doesn't it's very much not an entitled relationship. It's very much yeah, I don't get to just drop in and be like, "Hi, I'm here, let's hang out." It's more like it feels a lot more like my job is to listen. My job is to accept and hear and consider and think about, but it is not at all appropriate for me to be like, hey, yo, deity lady, can you just take care of this problem I have over here? Like I don't feel like I can ask for favors, but I don't feel like I get to come at it with a layer of with an energy of expectation or assuming that's going to be something that she's going to want to participate in. So I hope that makes some kind of sense. But that's sort of what my relationship with deity is very much like me, or like that rather. Jujubee says that was the Morgan with me. She was like, about time you noticed. And it could depend on the deity. When I was young, well, when I was a baby witch, so I'd say 19 to 22-ish years old, my primary deity, I decided I was going to work with Aphrodite. And so I worked with Aphrodite for a while. And then I decided I was going to work with, I forget who. I've worked with some different deities, but like to me, that was a very different experience than a deity sort of, I think, grabbing me by the like shirt collar and being like, hello, I'm going to work with you now. And I think those are different kinds of experiences. I think they're both super valid. Yeah, Chris made a great analogy. It's like hanging with your friends at school versus asking your teacher for something. Yes, that's exactly like that's a great analogy. It's like in one case, like you might have friends that are older than you, that have more experience than you, that are there to look after you and help you, but it's not the same as a teacher. Exactly, exactly. That's a really good analogy. Katie, do they tell you who you are if you would look them up online after? My experience with in my case, I've only had this happen once, and it's still somewhat recent to me because this deity and I have been working together since April of last year, I guess, because it was around the time my dad died. Before that, it was very much like I wanted to work with a deity and connect with that deity's energy, so I would kind of do the work to reach out, and then I would have some experiences. But this is a lot more like I'm along for the ride, I'm not doing any of the driving, so it feels very different. But for me, it was like a no question who it was because the synchronicities used her name, the synchronicities used objects that were sacred to her. It was really obvious who I was working with, and then in the visual, she was very clearly who she was. So yeah. Okay, I cannot use both hands to type right now because Luna Soleil is snoozing on one arm, so excuse the lack of capitals. That's fine. Kim, Cersei told me, is it Cersei? Circa? Told me straight. She may be able to help with my issue, but that work was up to me. This is something else I found with deity relationship is that deities tend to, they're not going to tell you exactly how to fix your problems. They're going to tell you need to fix your problems, and they may give you some advice. But to me, it's a lot more like being held to a standard and being like, go fix this, than being handheld. Whereas I feel like my guides are very handheld. They hold your hand, they support you. Oh, sorry, Laura. I think you asked that earlier and I missed it. Peggy's definitely spiritual. Would you describe yourself as spiritual?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like we actually have, it's kind of interesting because I lucked out with Peggy in a way because because
Somewhat.
she's never done like any kind of formalized witchcraft or formalized sort of spiritual stuff in that way, but I have disconnect when we're talking about, like, me talking about the astral or talking about my experience with my guides or my deities or anything like that. She's always like, oh yeah, okay, cool, because she gets it and she definitely speaks the same language. It's just she might choose different words for it, but we definitely we share the same, like, core beliefs.
We share the same ideas, we just practice them differently.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like when I've only
do meditation.
Yeah, exactly. And I've done one or two, maybe about two, I think, since we've been together, big, beefy, like really important rituals. And she's been in circle with me. We have done that kind of stuff, but we very much share similar beliefs. Oh my gosh, Marion, it's Peggy's Aries moon. Just in a way, a tad, LOL. Yeah, they choose you. Yeah, and I think I want to be clear though. I think that you can work with deity. It's perfectly valid to work with goddesses or gods or deity or pantheons. I think it's completely valid to seek out a deity that you feel you can connect with and build a relationship with that deity. I think that's valid. That was the only experience I'd ever had until last year. So, and I'm like 43. So I've been doing this for like 20 some odd years. I feel like that's super valid. But I also think there's something to be said for dropping control and allowing something in. And I don't think I was at a place in my practice where I could drop that control and could let something in until more recently. Yeah, Chris says, yep, teachers want you to learn for yourself instead of spoon feeding you, but they still have your best interest at heart. Yes. That being said, there's still a huge range of personalities among deities. Yeah, this is the other thing. My deity definitely has a take no shit kind of personality. Like she isn't somebody I would have ever classified as like a dark goddess or anything like that. But she very much has a no nonsense, very demanding kind of personality in general. And some deities are much softer. When I worked with Aphrodite, again, that was me seeking her, not the other way around. It was a very like nurturing, loving, soft energy. She had a very compassionate, gentle nature. And then I know people that work with really badass, like, intense dark goddesses like the Morrigan or Hecate. Yeah, so it really is. When we're talking about guides, though, the sky is the limit. Ellerina, come on, tell me who she is. I work with Yamaya, and I'm very careful about that because my experience with her is super personal and specific to our relationship. But she has a very strong and important tradition that is I'm not from the culture that she's from. And in fact, I don't even pronounce her name the way it is usually pronounced in that culture. So I'm very careful because I never want to say, this is what she's like, because I'm not from that tradition. I don't have any of that background, and that's not the relationship that we have. I will say that when I was first dealing with all these synchronicities, I did reach out to somebody who was from her tradition and did have a relationship with her from within that tradition, and just checked in to make sure I wasn't doing anything really disrespectful or as far as how I was working with her. And I also checked in with him to see, like, am I on okay footing here with how I'm exploring this? Like, is this, and I wasn't so much worried. I mean, I'm always worried, I guess, to a certain degree of how other people will receive what I have to say about stuff like this. But I was more worried about wanting to make sure I was engaging with her in a way that was going to be appropriate for her and not offend her. And I was never in a position where I was trying to connect with a deity I had very little cultural understanding of. So I was in very unsure territory. So yeah, that is who I'm working with. Alana, I have so much to go back to reflect on. Yeah, there's so much stuff coming up in this chat. This is really good. Okay, I knew I wanted a deity and I chose Bast. It happened through lots of reading and I just followed my heart. Yeah, exactly. Chris, I knew it was Yamaya. I almost asked you. I've known a couple of friends who had powerful experiences with her. I met Louisa Tesh in, I don't know if I said that right, in New Orleans, was introduced to Yamaya by her. Yeah, and I've done a lot of research. It's unfortunate because she is from a closed tradition. So I try to tread very, very carefully because I don't want to step on any toes. And I also don't want other people to come out of the woodwork and tell me that I can't, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like this fear of like, what are other people gonna, like, they're gonna think I shouldn't be connecting with, like, I can't control it. Like, she came to me. Thanks, Moira. But yeah, it's kind of, it's been very, it was very scary in the beginning because I was completely out of my element. I mean, on one hand, Yamaya's an ocean, and again, she's not even really considered a goddess or a deity in her tradition. So I use those words knowing they're not quite appropriate. She's an Orisha. But yeah, exactly, Deb. So I'm careful with that. But the fact that she is associated with Mama Ocean and just has that energy about her, it makes so much sense. And she's probably been with me for a long, long time. But there was no way I was in a place where I think I would have been open to that before. And never somebody I would have expected. Yeah, it was so, in fact, if you guys want to see one of the synchronicities that hit me super, super hard, around the time I was dealing with all these synchronicities, I was doing the Witch's Moon unboxings on my channel, and I never look at spoilers, so I was always surprised by whatever came in the box. My dad had just died, like days before, or maybe days after. I might be getting my timeline mixed up in reverse, but you can see, yeah, actually, Kay, that's what I was talking about. I got the Yamaya box when this was all happening. And I opened it live and like I started crying, and then like the Witch's Moon people were in there, and it was like a really crazy experience. So it's actually on my channel. You can go check it out if you're curious. But that was when everything really solidified, because I'm like, synchronicity, 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 and then a box that's entirely about her, and it was like, oh duh, oh duh. Okay, bye, Jujubee. Yeah, exactly, Jujubee. I wasn't sure if I should work with the Morgan for fear I was going to anger her in some way when I wasn't Irish. Yes. This is what I was like, am I even supposed to be doing this right now? And it was helpful that I had a friend I could talk to about it at the time who did work with her and could like give me some information. He couldn't tell me a lot because again, it's a closed tradition, right? But he could at least confirm that I wasn't doing anything that I was going to like open up to something inappropriately or disrespect her in some way. And that was what I really needed to confirm for myself, because I'd never worked with a goddess that was like, she's kind of told me and communicated with me how I'm supposed to work with her, and has been extremely clear. There's like literally no misunderstanding room with Yamaya at all. She's very like right here. No, thanks, Angela. So yeah, it's been a really, really powerful experience. But I do have very different relationships. So I guess there's three primary energies you could say I'm working with right now. I work with Yamaya, I work with my primary unicorn guide, Clyde, and I work with my human guide, who is, again, a departed friend who visits me on occasion. Do you have any suggestions for someone without a witchcraft background who's called by a dark goddess? I don't think you need to have a witchcraft background to work with a goddess. What I will say, in my experience, yeah, sorry, I have to comment on this. Heather's like, I think deities care a lot less about that stuff than people do. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. That's been my experience, for sure. And Yamaya's like, doesn't care. Like in our interaction, she's like, no, it's fine. Like I wouldn't be here otherwise. I mean, not that she's really quick to reassure me about anything actually, but she just wants what she wants, and it is what it is. So back to Moira's question. I will say, in my experience, dark goddess energy tends to be a lot more demanding, a lot more intense, and a lot more face your fears, face your shadows, deal with your bullshit. So be prepared for that. But I think that if you're feeling called by a particular goddess, dive into the rabbit hole. Like, learn about her, study her, see what her colors are that are sacred. See if there's, maybe pick a particular, if you're really into working with tarot or oracle decks, you can pick certain decks to only work with her. As an example, I use my Spirit Keepers Tarot whenever I want to communicate directly with guides or deity through tarot. Because Benabel Wen designed that deck to work for that purpose, and I trust that she's put the right coding in there for that to work, and I've had some really powerful experiences doing that. But I also keep a mermaid-themed deck with my Yamaya altar, and I'll use that deck for general readings when I want to connect with her. If you're working with dark goddess energy, there's a few different decks that might be helpful to sort of pull cards. I think if you're going to use a deck to work with a specific deity or a specific energy or guide, you should potentially consider having that deck just for that purpose, so that your brain and your energy knows that that's what you're doing when you pull that deck out. I think that's helpful. Generally, when it comes to learning how to connect with deities, Katie, I would say It all depends. So I know it's kind of a vague answer. I think that for me, it starts with research. So I try to learn everything I can about that particular deity. I try to read about them so that I understand a little bit more about their story and because most deities that we would work with have some sort of mythology or some sort of story associated with them. For example, I follow a lot of Instagram accounts that use hashtags that include Yamaya in them, because I find that I get to see a lot of like traditional altars and ceremonies, and I'll see people doing dances. It's outside of my normal culture, but it helps me feel more connected to her. Does the Dark Goddess Tarot work for having the variety of dark goddesses? I think Dark Goddess Tarot is great for connecting with general dark goddess energy or goddess energy in general. I don't think even necessarily just dark goddess energy. I think that it's a really great deck for tapping into that kind of energy. But I think if you want to work with a specific deity or goddess or god, I think it would be useful to use a deck that helps you feel like you can tap into that energy specifically. So like I might use Tarot of the Crone, or I might use even the Deviant Moon Tarot, or a tarot like that to tap into. If I wanted to have a deck just for working with a specific deity, I'd probably pick a deck that feels a little like their energy, and then use that deck for that deity. That's how I would probably do it. And then for me, building a relationship with deity is about visiting them, connecting with them. I like to do devotional work. Bye, tarot lady. I know we've kind of gone a lot. This is. I was like, I told Peggy, I was like, I'm gonna be out for an hour.
She's a liar.
She knew better.
She's a liar. She's a liar.
But we're definitely having some really cool discussions. So yeah. Yes, Heather, my experience with Santa Muerte is very sorry, I'm reading Chris's comment where he says, yes, Heather, my experience with Santa Muerte is very motherly, even grandmotherly. Yeah, that's a beautiful energy to connect to. So yeah, I feel like for me, I enjoy the cerebral study piece to learn about a goddess. I've actually been in uncharted territory with Yamaya because there's very little. She's part of a closed tradition, so that's a part of it. And a lot of the things that talk about her are in Spanish. And while I took Spanish in high school, I can't read Spanish. I can pick out certain words. So I'm a little bit unable to get as much as I really want to get cerebrally. But in a way, that's kind of good, because I've been put in a position where I'm learning about her through my relationship with her and through the devotional stuff. Yeah, I'm outside of my comfort zone, Peggy says. That's super true. Hello, camera. Hi.
That's pretty much the entire point.
Hello. Okay, there we go. Alarina, what do you mean by a closed tradition? Okay, so what I mean, and I don't know if this is accurate, but as I understand it, certain traditions are closed in the sense that in order to work in a particular spiritual tradition, if it's closed, you would have to be specifically taught by somebody from that tradition who is authorized by their tradition to teach you. Oftentimes you have to dedicate to a particular path and then follow a specific set of okay, think of it like Catholicism isn't what I would what's that?
Think of it like an apprenticeship.
Yeah, like an apprenticeship. That's a good way to look at it. So a lot of times what that means is that you can only access the mysteries of that tradition through a very formalized process. And I'm not called to the tradition. I have a relationship
You're
with
not
this.
born to the tradition.
I'm not born to the tradition. Yeah, sometimes these are sometimes, not always.
Basically, Yamaya is a hereditary tradition, not something that you can just decide to join.
You can actually, but you have to dedicate, and often there is
a process.
Yeah, there's a process. Yeah, that's a great idea, Mystic Sunchild. Yeah, dedicating a deck to work with a deity or work with a guide. And you guys, these same techniques work with guides, right? I have an altar specifically that I've set up for my relationship with Yamaya. And I do certain things. She has a day that's sacred to her, which is Saturday. I keep my altars somewhat simple. I have a statue of her that I purchased that I anoint with oils. I have seashells, and every time, the one thing I learned from somebody who was from her tradition is that you don't just get to give them something, like give her something and then like take it back and repurpose it later. Like once I've assigned something to be for her altar or for my work with her, that's it. It's for that. And that's all it is. So I have freshwater pearls I've put on her altar. I have anything related to the sea that I collect or am given, I give to her. I put on her altar, whether it's a sand dollar or a seashell or all these kinds of things I will assign to her space. And when I charge moon water every full moon, I keep a small cup, ceramic cup on that altar, and I keep it filled up with moon water that I charge monthly. So there's little things I do. And then I also have a set of prayer beads specifically for when I'm working with her or I'm doing any kind of devotional work or gratitude work. And I try to only ask her for things when I really need something. I look to her for protection, or I look to her for checking in, kind of advice kind of things, but definitely on the bigger stuff. Yeah, Kay, Maya is considered the ocean mother goddess in Santeria, which is an Afro-Caribbean religion. It's practiced worldwide, I believe. Yeah, and I believe there is another tradition as well that works with her. There's a lot of what was I about to say about Catholicism? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, Catholicism isn't a closed tradition. However, in Catholicism, as I understand it, there is a process, right? Like you go through particular processes as a youth. Like my best friend in like grade school was Catholic, and she was going through, I forget what it's called. You go through stages of like, what's it called? Study or learning. There's something where you like sort of level up. Yeah, this is probably why I abandoned the analogy. Yeah, Chris, I make offerings of liquor, water, fruit, sweets, found objects, incense. Exactly. Like Yamaya, one of her fruits is watermelon. So if I have watermelon, I'll always offer her some. Yes, alcohol offerings are great. Fresh fruit, sweets. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, confirmation, catechism. Yes, confirmation was the word I was trying to think of. And sacrament, somebody else said. But yeah, so I was going to use that as an example because while Catholicism I wouldn't consider a closed tradition in that it's a little bit easier to access and it's more open to,
but there's still a process whereby you have to formally convert.
Yeah, you have to formally study / convert at some point. Yeah.
And some closed systems are a little bit more restrictive. Catholicism will take anybody. They're looking at
it. They'll take anybody, Peggy says. Oh my God. Oh, you grew up Catholic, Holly? I know I'm probably slaughtering what it's all about. That's why I was like, I should probably not use this as an example. So yeah, this is in general my experience with building a relationship with any spiritual entity, whether it be deity, whether it be a guide, is repetition, dedication, intent, and being open to experience. Like if I was going to sum it up, those are the basic components. If you meet a guide in a meditation, and then you don't do anything to go back to that same environment and meet that guide again, you're not going to build a relationship with them. If you want to build a relationship with them, you really need to make time for them and go back and visit again and again and again. And even if you just imagine yourself being with them in a particular place, like going to your astral temple and just being in the same space together, there doesn't always need to be a purpose. There doesn't always need to be like an event happening or like a question you need to ask. Sometimes that's great to check in if you've got a question. But sometimes to me, it's just about 7 and 10. Yeah, seven's one of my numbers for sure. I don't know about 10, but I am a July baby. So there's that. But yeah, I did know about her numbers. Yeah, so for me, it's about repetition. It's about building that visual so that it's very strong, very real, and very potent. There you go, Mystic Sunchild. I use a mala and count mantras to Green Tara. I met her in an astral meadow. Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, whether it's deity or guides, I still believe that the energy that finds us, that we connect to in the astral or we connect to when we're meditating, is going to come to you in a form that is going to be digestible and understandable to you. It might be that you're a practicing witch, but the energy that comes to you is most makes sense to you, or the part of you that needs it to make sense, if it comes in the form of a Jesus or a Mary Magdalene, like Heather mentioned earlier. Like, it doesn't have to be something that makes logical sense. All it needs to be is something that feels authentic to you. Len and Moira, best advice for Hecate: listen, don't talk. She's all about opening doors you must be ready to go through. Man, that sounds like Yamaya too. Holy crap. Yeah, there's a lot of listen, don't talk energy from her as well. This is exactly what I needed. Like when you're craving for something and you grab the exact thing you need, this. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad. You know what? It took a lot of nudging. And thank you to Christine for the nudging, because I've been asked multiple times to talk more about my spiritual path, to talk about guides, to talk about my work with deity. And I think I just needed the crowbar reminder to be like, just do it already. But there's always a little fear with something that's so personal, because you're always like, what if people don't get it? Or or
Fuck 'em.
yeah, Peggy's like, fuck them. Thanks, honey.
You're welcome.
You the best.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm fucking amazing.
I will
That's great.
also say, don't be weirded out if like you have again, I'm just going to remind you may have multiples, right? So you're not cheating on one.
You might be polytheistic.
You might be polytheistic. I almost used polyamory as an example earlier because I was trying to explain, but like there have been times in my life when I've worked with multiple deities at one time. Yamaya is not like that at all. She's like, this is it, like that. No, just me. But most of the time in the past, my experiences were a lot different, and I worked with multiple deities or multiple guides. Oh, thanks, you guys. Oh, Holly. Oh, that's okay though. It'll definitely probably have a lot of good rewatchability because we've had some really meaty conversation. Yeah, Heather, exactly. It's personal. That's exactly the point. Every experience you have is valid. There isn't a right way to do this, and there isn't a wrong way to do this. The only thing I will insist is important is that you feel safe. That's number one thing, because I think that when you're doing any kind of meditation work, any kind of journey work, any kind of connecting with a spirit that feels even a little bit external, it is important that you feel safe. It is important that you feel protected. So if for you that means you need to anoint your body with an oil that you visualize is protection, do that. If you need a crystal to make you feel protected, have that. If you want to cast a full circle because you're witchy and you like that energetic boundary, do that. If you need a physical person who you trust to be in the space with you while you meditate because that's what makes you feel safe, do that. Like whatever you need to do to feel safe, to feel protected, and to feel confident that you can let your barriers down while you're in the meditation is going to be really, really good for you. Kay says, I was born in West Bromwich. Oh, she's talking to Cleo, sorry. So yeah, like I think it's just important to really honor what feels right and comfortable for you. And if you do better with guided meditations, totally do that, right? Hi, Tommy. It might feel better to you initially to look up guided meditations or to write your own or to record something that's very pre-done, so you have some sort of guideline to follow. So I'm going to link again that chakra meditation I did, because if any of the environments that you move through in that meditation, say in the heart chakra, for example, feel very like safe spaces, you could use something like that as a jumping off point in order to build more of a place that's your own, right? Heather says, I would say personally that safe doesn't necessarily mean unafraid. That's an important distinction. Yes. My goddess often pushes me past my fears. Totally agree. Clyde has done a lot of pushing with me, and Yamaya definitely does. I think when you're working with anybody who has your best interest at heart on the astral, whether that's goddesses, gods, animal guides, spirit guides, angels, anything, anyone who has your best interest at heart in that way is very likely to push your buttons sometimes, is very likely to encourage you to move outside of your comfort zone, and is incredibly likely to make you uncomfortable at some point or feel nervous or feel unsure. So yeah, you will likely have experiences where you're facing your fears. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important to me that my space on the astral feels like a safe space, and that my physical body where I'm meditating or whatever feels like a safe space. If I'm like in a crowded bus station, I'm not going on the astral. Like I'm just not going to, because I won't feel safe. Yeah, Chris said sources of fear can become sources of power when we face them. Yeah, Heidi says, I definitely feel I push my guides buttons. Oh, I do that too. I'm a lot more tiptoey with deity than I am with my guides. Like sometimes I'm a damn brat. Peggy can attest. Honey, am I ever a brat?
When are you not?
See? So yeah, this is why I get my ass kicked by my guides sometimes.
Bratting is her natural state of being.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just waiting for it. Oh, Holly's between London and Windsor. That's like Peggy's old stomping ground.
I'm from St. Thomas.
Peggy's from St. Thomas. She was in St. Thomas when we met. Ontario loves supportive tarot. Is there like a lot of Ontario people? Did I miss all of that? Chris Yao says, haha, our guides are invisibly rolling their eyes and sighing at us all the time. Accurate. So accurate.
Where are they?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm from St. Catharines, Moira says. Holly Melnick. I'm between London and Windsor.
Yeah,
And
where?
Kay's in Ontario too.
Where between London
Oh,
and Windsor?
sorry.
Are you in like Dutton?
She wants to know if you're from Dutton. You don't have to tell us. You're on the internet, so it's up to you.
Dutton's-
I'm a nice brat. Thanks, Lucy.
Are you still in Elgin County?
Are you still in Elgin County? She says. I'm not sure if you hear that. Kay says, Holly, I come to London regularly to see my surgeon at St. Joe's Upper Arm and Hand Clinic.
My dad used to work at St. Joe's.
Oh, Peggy's dad used to work. He used to work at that clinic?
At the hospital.
Oh, at the hospital. Oh, okay. Heather's like, as a Brit, I was thinking, but Windsor's in London? I'm confused. I was confused.
Unless I'm getting something mixed up.
Holly says 20 minutes outside of Chatham? Chatham?
Okay, I know Chatham.
Oh, and long hair, skinny-eyed toes in Ontario. Look at all the Ontario people. My guides are often waiting for me. What's that, honey?
So why haven't you people escaped yet?
Why haven't you escaped yet? Peggy says. Kim says my guides are often waiting for me to catch on to the most obvious things. Agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God. I'm waiting for her to catch on to the most obvious things.
Yep. Kay says no way, Peggy. The clinic is part of the hospital. Yep.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah, and there used to be a tunnel going to the nurses' college across the street.
Hmm.
Or no, there was a second one across the street. There's actually an underground tunnel going from St. Joe's under the highway. I keep saying nurses. I think at one time it was a nurses' college.
And Alana's from Toronto. Well, look at you guys. We're in BC. Oh yes, book recommendations. TBR problems. Oh man. There is actually, hold on. I'm gonna go grab a couple of my favorite tools for deity. Hold on one sec. I don't fall over.
Quick, act up. She's out of the room, guys.
Oh no.
Wow, you're taking forever. And then shenanigans are happening in your absence.
All the shenanigans.
All the shenanigans. Which one was I getting that with?
I'm gonna try not to take too long here. I need to grab this one. And where is my Transcend Witch's Wheel? Oh well.
Oh well, you're out of time. It's been an hour.
It hasn't been an hour.
It's been an hour.
Oh my god. Peggy's the worst. Okay, so
I am the amazingest. I yelled at her, I made her hurry up. You're welcome.
Peggy's very proud of herself. Oh hi Brenda. Brenda's in my province. Woo! What sounds like a door stopper? The soothing sound of Peggy's sewing machine.
Yeah.
Wait, what did I miss? I missed all the things. You guys are getting up to shenanigans. She's in the astral again. Oh my god. Okay, so I just grabbed a few things really quick, mostly decks because
she was unprepared.
That was what I was unprepared. I didn't know where this conversation was gonna go. So I really, really like this book. This is by Sky Alexander, and it's called Find Your Goddess. So if you're looking at working with deity, I think this is a really beautiful book. What's nice about this? Oh, I was gonna grab my goddess oracle, but I didn't grab it. Anyway. For every goddess, it's just a little blurb on not every goddess, on quite a few goddesses. But it's got some artwork. It's got a bit about the story of the goddess, a bit about virtues, manifesting her power. So here's an example. So Oshun is in here, which is another Orisha, I never said that right. History and mythology, virtues, and manifesting her power. So there's just a little bit here that it's like a teaser. So if you're looking at working with goddesses and you want to like see who maybe you resonate with, this is a nice way to kind of explore different types of energy. I like this book because A, it's beautiful. I found it to be pretty well done. I like that there's some illustrations that feel like they're actually meant to be about that particular deity or goddess. So I really, really enjoy this book. I refer to it all the time, and I think they've got a pretty good cultural mix up, selection, a pretty good cultural selection in this book. I really, really love the Goddess Oracle by Sophia Marashinsky and Harana Janto. Let me link it for you. It's my favorite goddess oracle. I think the guidebook for it is really beautifully done. I think that's the one that Marion's talking about. Yeah, here it is. This is probably a Canada link, but since you all are in Canada, apparently. Ooh, Sky Alexander has a great book about sex magic. Oh, that's good to know. So this is my favorite.
Kama Sutra.
So does the Kama Sutra, Peggy says. So I really love this Goddess Oracle deck. I think it's really, really good. Well done. Beautiful. Oh, the author of this book, this is by Sky Alexander. There's also a deck and book combo that just came out that I just saw on somebody's channel. Maybe you're even in here, and I'm sorry if I forget who it was, but it's called Legendary Ladies. In fact, let me just share. Can I share this screen with you? I probably can. I'm on StreamYard. Sure, let's do this. Application window. Here we go. So this is the Goddess Oracle I was just telling you about here. There's not very many pictures on here. The artwork is really good. I should have grabbed it to show you the deck, but I didn't. This has been around since it's been around since before 2006, I'm pretty sure. This one's really good. And then the other one that I was going to talk to you about was the Legendary Ladies. This is a little bit more vector style graphics. There's a book and there's also a deck. So there's a 58 goddess deck. Yeah, here's what it looks like. If you look up on YouTube, I wish I could remember who did it. If you're in here, please feel free to link your own video. Somebody, I just saw a walkthrough of that. Yeah, we must have watched the same one. I just can't remember who it was. But this is the deck, and there's a Am I back? I don't know what just happened. I just accidentally left my own chat. Oh, Julie. Of course it was Julie. That explains why I saw it. I'm very quick to watch Julie's videos. Peekaboo Rose. Yes, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I just hit the wrong button. Let me share my screen again. I was trying to go back on the tab that I was showing the video. Okay, sorry. I was showing you Legendary Ladies. The deck, this is where I wanted to hit. Am I in? Oh, I see. That's really weird. Okay, it shows me that it's in StreamYard. I upgraded to StreamYard Pro today, so a couple things look different, and I wasn't expecting that. So it's yeah.
Have somebody do it after.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's so crazy to me. Anyway, so there's a book that doesn't have all the goddesses. It's got 50 of the 58 goddesses. Yeah. Anyway, see if I can pull up any of the images. Can I? Can I? It's really beautiful artwork, though. Come on. She's on the astral again. That's funny. Yeah. So it kind of looks like this. So I'm excited about this book. I'm really looking forward to picking it up. I like that it has the goddess name as well as her origin and a bit about her story. It doesn't look like it's particularly in depth on anybody, but books and decks like this are really great for kind of like, for lack of a better word, a bit of a sampler. If you're looking at like which cultures or which goddesses are really speaking to you. This was kind of the way that I would connect with goddess before one just kind of came and grabbed me and like tossed me over her shoulder and was like, you're working with me now. Usually this is how it's been for me, is just who am I feeling drawn to? Who do I feel like I want to try to get to know and work with? So this book, that Legendary Ladies, looks promising. As far as decks, we were just talking about the Dark Goddess Tarot. This is a good one because it is coming back, not because, but this one is coming back into print in this year at Schiffer Publishing. Thank you, Heather, for linking Julie's video. I work with this deck. I pull a card every month on the Dark Moon from this deck. What's nice about this is that there is a different goddess on every single card, which means you've got 78 different goddesses that you can learn about. And I really love that. Now, the deck itself, the guidebook that comes with it, the little white book, at least in the indie version, I don't know if the I don't know what's going to be, how that's going to work with the reprint, with the mass market reprint. but it comes with a little white book, and for every goddess, you just get like a couple, like just a little kind of phrase, something to really get you thinking. And then what I do for this deck is I have the Fool's Dog Tarot app, and it has a lot more stuff in the book. So I use the guidebook in the Fool's Dog app. And she also, I believe, Ellen Lorenzi Prince also sells a PDF digital guidebook for this deck, I believe, but I don't know how that works now with the reprint coming. I'm assuming Shipper's going to release a full-size guidebook with the deck, but I'm just assuming. I don't know for sure. Bye! So anyways, this one's a really beautiful deck if you just want to have a chance to be exposed to different sorts of goddesses. Rather, it says dark goddess, and I suppose all the goddesses in here do have a bit of that energy, but I feel like a lot of them could just be like not dark too. Oh, Chris, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, this has been a really good discussion. I'm really excited we got to do this. Yeah, I'm really excited for the reprint. Now, I also recently got in a trade. I haven't worked with it yet, but I also recently got Tarot of the Crone by the same artist, Ellen Lorenzi Prince. This one is also coming back into print, I believe, independently on Ellen Lorenzi Prince's website, I'm assuming, later this year. I'm hoping later this year. And this one, to me, would be the kind of deck I would work with. If I wanted to dedicate a deck to work with a goddess, a specific goddess, this would be, I think, a really good one. It's got a lot of pretty intense, it is very feminine energy. So I don't know if this is what you would necessarily reach for, say, I wouldn't necessarily pick this deck for Aphrodite as an example, but this would be great for working with, say, a Hecate type energy, I think, or anything like that if you wanted one. And this has just plain black backs. I need to edge it. It's gonna look so good edged. I haven't worked with this yet. This is in my pile to do a walkthrough, and then I will probably make some time to work with it before I decide. So this is one that I think could be really good. Depending on what you're drawn to, another deck that I think can be really fun for playing with the Divine Feminine energy in general is the Divine Feminine Oracle. This is by Megan Watterson. Now, this is a lot more eclectic in terms of mixing multicultural sort of divine feminine figures that are both non-Christian and Christian. So if you are open to that sort of like overlap, this one can be really beautiful to work with. I pull one of these cards during my moon cycle every month, and I work with it for that week or so. Oh, nice, Marian. Okay. So yeah, this is what this one looks like. I really, really love working with this deck for that comforting feminine energy. If you, again, there are some goddess type figures in here. There are also some, I think, saints. I'm really bad at like knowing what things are called, but I love working with this deck. I think it's very loving and very calming and very nurturing. Now, I connected with this deck after I read Megan Watterson's book, Mary Magdalene Revealed, which I thought was really, really, really good. But I think there was a time in my life not very long ago when I wouldn't have been even remotely open to this deck because of the Christian overlap. But I think it's done in a very open, expansive way. It doesn't feel dogmatic at all. And if anything, it's quite non-dogmatic in its approach, actually. But the guidebook, look at this thing. This thing is almost, it's like 224 pages of just really excellent writing. And there's a little bit about each of the feminine figures that you find in this deck. There's a really beautiful message. There's a soul voice meditation, which this one, for example, is what does love feel like in my body? And there's an intention. So this is a really nice one to work with. I love working with this during my moon cycle. It just feels perfect for that. And I really like it. Now, if you want a deck that's going to be something you can use to connect with your guides or connect with deity energy at all, any deck that I think lacks structure and has really expansive artwork or really expansive keywords, preferably no keywords, but that can be really hard to find, but something that will help you tap into your intuition with less predefined meanings or predefined structure, I think can be really good for working with deity or spirit realm in general. And so my number one recommendation, if you want a deck that's really open in that way and can kind of be programmed for what you want it to be for, if that makes sense, is the soul cards 1 or 2 or both. This is both mixed up. Soul cards are really great because there is no structure. There are no predefined meanings. I use this deck for a lot of spirit work. Anytime I need to tap into something bigger that I don't know how it's going to play out. I use this primarily for past life readings, but I have used this for mediumship style readings, and I've used that, for lack of a better way to express it. Anytime I need to talk to or communicate with spirit, this is a deck that's really good to reach for. Other decks that I think have an art style that could be potentially really good are Roots and Wings. I've actually used for some spirit communication. I've also used, I kind of have used and could see using more the, oh, what's that called? I always forget the name of it. The oval deck. What's it called? Luminous Void. Okay, I just remembered. Luminous Void. I think the Luminous Void Tarot could be really cool for doing spirit work. I almost feel like it would work better with no titles on it. But even with titles, there's something about the dreamy, loose watercolor in that deck that I think is really conducive to that kind of work. But yeah. Okay, so that wraps it up, you guys. I've been on here for almost 2 hours. I was sure I was going to do just an hour. But this ended up going in all kinds of really cool directions. So this was super fun. I'm so glad we did this. Thank you again so much to Christine for the nudge. I hope I got to everybody's questions. If you have any questions that I haven't gotten to yet, throw them at me now. I'll give another couple minutes for any questions and we can wrap it up. But I would love to answer any if you've got a couple. Chris, I combined the Mystical Shaman. Oh, I could see that being good. I traded mine, but I could totally see it being good. And Animal Spirit decks from Colette Baron Reed for one super spirit deck. I totally get that. Oh, you're welcome, Christine. Hi, Carmen. Oh, I'm sorry you missed it, but it'll be good. There's so much good stuff in here to rewatch for sure. Yeah, that's good. And you can take decks that have keywords if the art you think really speaks to you and trim them off. And then or combine a couple decks and trim them off. Like there's so many fun ways you could create a deck that's perfect for you for that kind of work. But to me, it's really about dropping those preconceived ideas of what the cards mean and just really letting things flow. Thank you. I would go to your magic school, Lisa. Oh, there you go. Maybe we need to have like a Witchcraft 101 series on this channel. That'd be fun. Maybe we could do that. Yay, Kay. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, Angels and Ancestors. I actually use that deck quite a bit in my past life readings for clients, and I also use it when I want to connect to a specific energy, particularly if I'm looking to connect with any kind of angelic energy, because there's something about the way angels are approached in that deck that feel more non-religion specific. Ooh, trim the titles and borders from Spirit Song Tarot to use as another animal oracle. Oh, that'd be cool. Heather, it's been great. I need to get back on to doing more spiritual stuff. Yes. This is the time for it. This is the time for it. That's super true. Yes, do that, Holly says. Yeah, maybe we'll have to put together a Witchcraft 101. That'd be super fun. Or Witchcraft and Spirituality 101 or something so that we can have more expansive topics. It'd be fun to do it in a live format too. That would be cool. Ooh, I've got so many ideas percolating in there now. We could talk about circle casting and like energy work and healing and so many juicy topics. Lennon's like, I'm down. Yay! Oh, good. I feel so close to tapping the spiritual but blocked. So we'll try your chakra meditation. Yeah, try that. I found guided meditations were my in when I was new and really struggling. Ooh, we could do it in Zoom, have a classroom environment. I have to look at Zoom and see how it works. I like doing stuff on YouTube because then it's accessible to everybody, which would be my hesitation to do something outside of YouTube. Yes to circle casting. Oh, and I've got so many ideas for different ways to cast circles too, because we're often taught a very specific way, and I need to do a Witchcraft 101 series. That'd be so fun.
You need to do whatever the fuck you want. It's your channel.
Yeah, it's my channel. I do what I want. This is my sandbox. Zoom would be fun. I don't know what's the difference with Zoom. I don't understand. Oh, it's because we can see each other. Oh, I wonder if we could do like a Zoom and have the Zoom on YouTube. That would be fun.
Well, that's what you just signed up for.
No, that's StreamYard. I don't think I can show other people on StreamYard. I should find out though.
No, but if you can stream into
I can host multiple people on StreamYard. Yeah, Absolutely. That's true. Oh yeah, that's true. I wonder how many people. I need to look that up. Your sandbox, lol. That's exactly what I say about this channel. It's my sandbox. My rules, my sandbox. Yeah, Jack. Yeah, you can. Oh, you can only get 40 minutes of group chats in Zoom when it's free. Good to know. I do now have StreamYard Pro. We literally just upgraded. So hopefully that will give us some more leeway here. Maybe I can do some stuff in here or share a screen or something. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll look into it because I think it'd be really fun to do. I think it'd be really, really fun to do like a witchcraft and spirituality like live chat series here. Maybe what I'll do is I'll think about that a little more, and then I might post something about it in the Facebook group. So make sure you're in there if you're interested, because any updates or like polls or anything I tend to do in there. So check it out. The link is for it is down below. We've got quite a big community there. Oh, hi, Veronica. Oh, you're listening and I didn't want to feel like a stalker. You're not a stalker. It's fine. You're welcome.
Lisa's into that kind of thing. Be a stalker.
What? Peggy's like, Lisa's into that kind of thing.
Perv. She doesn't mind.
Perv, you're perv.
You're an absolute perv. Lisa,
this chat just took a turn.
Okay, who is new and does not know that Lisa's a perv?
What? Hi, Nancy. I'm just wrapping up.
She's a perv.
Oh my God. Oh boy. See, this is what happens. Veronica Jude comes in and now look, we're talking about how I'm a perv. How did that happen?
Because you're a perv. That's how it happened.
Oh boy.
Love you.
Love you too.
Yeah.
All right. So I am going to call this because we are definitely just past the 2-hour mark. So I'm going to call it. I'm going to plan another witchcraft / spirituality discussion for very soon because this was a lot of fun. And I feel like we got to have some really good conversation here. So I am definitely going to do another one of these soon. If you have a specific request for topic, hit me up on Facebook or in the Facebook group. No, we're not going to talk about me being a perv. That's not what's going to happen. Anyway.
Dude, don't make it happen.
You're all very, very welcome. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. I'm gonna actually end this. I'm really bad at the long goodbye too. I always tease Peggy, but I'm bad at it too. Okay. All right, y'all. Now I'm saying goodbye. Okay. Bye. Have a great day.